Now in 10th, you introduced trigonometric ratios. Those were defined, children, in a right angle triangle. So when they were acute angles, so for that the ratio of the sides were defined as those 3, 6 ratios that you studied. And now we are going to see those as trigonometric functions now. Okay, so what are you going to learn here? The most important thing is that these trigonometric ratios that we have studied, these are actually periodic functions. Okay, what do you mean by periodic functions? Means the values, there was this table also that you had learned from 0 to 90, because as I'm saying, we had studied it in a right angle triangle. So about the acute angles, which are from 0 to 90. So only those many values we had seen there. Now the angles can go beyond that also. Okay, so now when we are seeing it in a plane. So like this coordinate axis there. So the angles, like we discussed yesterday also, now we can have angles of any extent, one complete rotation or even more. So they can go on and on. We can have so many rotations in clockwise or maybe anti-clockwise direction. So we can view the angles in any order now. Okay, so for that now we are going to see that these but whatever in when I'm defining things in a coordinate plane. So if I consider this way, two rectangular axes, then the whole plane is divided into 4 quadrants that we've studied again earlier. Okay, so in these 4 quadrants, now whichever way you see, they have shown you again here the right angle triangle in first quadrant. That is how you have studied it in your junior classes, okay, in class 10. So this triangle now, this may move on to second quadrant. We can have that triangle in third quadrant or maybe in fourth quadrant as well. Okay, we can have it elsewhere also in rest of the 3 quadrants. That is what they are trying to tell you here. Okay, so now we are going to see that they are, as I said, periodic functions. So what the values of these trigonometric ratios, they range from, like for sine, if you all remember, it used to start from 0, goes maximum up to 1. For cos, it was the other way around. It used to decrease from 1 to 0 as the angle used to increase. And for tan, the value was from 0 to infinity, that we defined. तो वही value जो आपने 0 to 90 के बीच में पढ़ी हैं, those values only keep repeating themselves in rest of the quadrant also. Okay, because if you see यहाँ पे भी आप triangle बनाओगे तो कहीं ना कहीं वही limited angles बनेंगे acute angle में. Okay, it's only ki aapka that difference, we call them as allied angles. We'll see how that is incorporated here. Okay, so the first thing you need to understand it that these trigonometric functions are periodic functions, means after a certain period or after a certain range, the values start repeating themselves. Okay, and as I'm telling you out here now, when you'll observe the table, whatever the values we have studied in class 10th, that table from 0 to 90, those very values keep repeating themselves again and again. At times they become positive, negative. That is what we'll get to see here. Okay, and that positive and negative is because of this fact, children, because now when we are in class 10, when we had seen, it was say assumed to be in first quadrant. So in first quadrant, your x and y both are positive. Now, if I move on to second quadrant, see my x becomes negative in second quadrant and y still remains positive. So out of the ratios, आपका एक side becomes negative. So the ratio also becomes negative. It's something like that. Okay. And here your x and y both are negative. Here your x is positive, but y becomes negative. So because of that sign, you will observe that in different quadrants, the ratios will keep becoming positive and negative. How and what it happens, we'll study that further. Okay, so that was the first thing. So I'll refer it from the book and then I'll explain you with the help of my diagram. So here quadrant angles they are talking about, these are the basic angles that these lines, okay, this angle out here corresponds to 0, this one 90 degrees, we know that. This straight line, this becomes 180 degrees, because remember when I had said that now when we are going to study angles, we would consider this as the initial line. Say you can take the positive direction of x-axis to be the initial line for any angle. Okay, so jab rotation ho raha hai, to this rotation is 90. Then this whole straight line rotation, this is 180. Then plus another 90, this becomes 270 and this becomes 360. Okay, and we have already seen now that we need to study these angles in radian measure. So it would be 0 in radian. This is known as pi by 2. This becomes pi. This becomes 3 pi by 2, and this is 2 pi, 360 degrees. Okay, one complete rotation. So this way it will go on increasing also. Okay. Now let's see what is the next thing. So here that is what they have told you, that these base quadrants, the 4 lines out here, 1 quadrant, 2nd quadrant, 3rd quadrant, 4th quadrant. So 0, 90, pi, all multiples of pi by 2. When we consider integral multiples of pi by 2, these are known as quadrantal angles. Okay. Okay, then these children, as I said, allied angles. I have made a figure. I'll explain you with the help of that. For now, let me tell you that from book what you need to study. Okay, so this is the first thing. Now children, you have to observe there's this table given to you in which they are giving you value of these basic 3 ratios, sine, cos and tan, varying from 0 to full 2 pi. 2 pi corresponds to 360. So that is one complete rotation. Now we need to know the value in one complete rotation of a circle. Okay, so from 0, pi by 6, pi by 4, pi by 3, pi by 2. This is your first quadrant from 0 to 90. The table that you have already studied in class 10. Okay. Now, I hope you are by now familiar with these notations of pi. This is 30 degrees, 45, then that's 60, and this is 90. Now, children, what is observed is that when you move to another quadrant, when you can cover up another 90 degrees, I should say. Okay, this was from 0 to 90, then pi by 2 to pi is another 90 degrees. So when we are moving from pi by 2 to pi, the values are going to repeat themselves. But as you see out here, they have shown you sine pi by 2 was 1 and sine pi becomes 0. So what happens is, in the same order as it increased from 0 to 1, it will decrease from 1 to 0 in that same order. अब आप इसके आगे भी जब आप एंगल लोगे तो you will take it with the same difference. Okay, like यहाँ 30 का difference होता है, 30 degrees का 60 to 90, then यहाँ 15 degrees का 15, then 30. So likewise आप यहाँ करोगे. So it will be 90 plus 30, that is next angle we'll put in question will be 120 degrees. Okay, so next value would be sine 120 and that value will be अगेन 3 by 2. तो जिस ऑर्डर में ये इंक्रीज हुई थी अब उसी ऑर्डर में आपको उल्टा लिखते हुए जाना है बस, दैट इज इट. Okay, the next angle here would be 90 plus 45, that is 135, and that value would be again 1 by root 2. Okay, then next jump would be another 15 degrees वहां पे बोलो 45 में, और 60 degree from 90 to pi straight away. So that would be 150 degree, and for that the value will come out to be 1 by 2, and then 180 degrees pi plus pi, pi by 2 plus pi by 2, that is 180 degrees pi, that would again come out to be 0. Okay, so जिस order में ये 0 to 1 increase हुई उसी order में ये 1 to 0 decrease होंगी अब, right? Same way, फिर again the same value will be repeated. From 0 to 1 it will go, but it goes in the negative. You just have to put that negative sign, that I'll explain you once just now why that is happening, and then back to from 1 to 0. Okay, so इसीलिए वो मैं आपको बोल रही हूँ periodic functions है, same values repeat होती हैं. So this was about sine, and cos में भी वही होगा, उल्टा होगा. Cos was decreasing from 1 to 0, then after pi by 2 it will start increasing from 0 to 1. Numerically it will increase. Okay, sine I'm not talking about right now. Okay, so from 0 to 1 उसी order में. अब 0 के बाद next जो column आएगा, that would be for 120 degrees, it would be 1 by 2 value रख दोगे. फिर 135 के लिए 1 by root 2, then 150 के लिए root 3 by 2, and 180 के लिए again 1 रखोगे आप. Okay, then फिर उसी order में आप वापस increase करना शुरू करोगे. तो same table has to go on and on again and again, right? Likewise for tan also. Now when you move on, next value you would say is root 3, then the next value will be 1, then the next value would be 1 by root 3, and then pi again it will become 0. Okay, so that is how this table goes on and on. तो उसने आपको यहाँ पे ये concise करके दे दिया है कि value from back from 1 to 0, and I've told you कि वो 1 to 0 भी इसी order में जाएंगे जिस order में वो increase या decrease हो रही थी. All right. Okay, now next they are talking about the sign of trigonometric functions. Okay, so here, this is another important table. Now 4 quadrants I told you about. So in 4 quadrants, in the first quadrant, all the ratios are positive. That is your first quadrant 0 to 90, जो आप class 10 में table पढ़ के आए हो, वहाँ कहीं negative sign नहीं था. All trigonometric ratios were positive. There was no question of a negative sign. Okay, but now there will be when you move beyond 90 degrees. When I move to second quadrant, in second quadrant, sine ratio becomes positive. Now this you will have to keep in mind. Okay, ये आपको memorize करना है. Every time it will be required. Okay, उसका रीजन है, एज आई टोल्ड यू, कि कभी हमारा x पॉजिटिव होता है, कभी y नेगेटिव हो जाता है, कभी x y दोनों नेगेटिव हो जाते हैं. तो बिकॉज ऑफ दैट योर जो बेसिक रेशियो थी ऑफ परपेंडिकुलर अपॉन बेस और परपेंडिकुलर अपॉन हाइपोटेन्यूज, तो कोई लेंथ कभी प्लस माइनस होके रिजल्टेंट नेगेटिव आ जाता है. बट उतना डीपली अभी आपको नहीं भी समझना है, यू लीव इट, बट एटलीस्ट लर्निंग पार्ट हैज टू बी डन देयर. ओके, सो यू शुड, as soon as you see second quadrant and you see a sine ratio, you know it is supposed to be positive, but as soon as you see cos, it will become negative. Okay, so they've told you here कि second quadrant में sine positive होता है, बाकी दो negative होती हैं. And naturally फिर उनके accordingly reciprocal, these are reciprocal ratios, cosec second cot, तो sine भी वही govern होगा जो उसकी first ratio का होगा. तो sine and cosec positive, rest negative. Third quadrant में tan and obviously then cot become positive, rest negative. Last quadrant, fourth quadrant में cos and उसका reciprocal sec, positive, rest negative. So you have to memorize this table, children. Okay, so every ratio you see out of this is 2 times positive and 2 times negative. If you observe, sine is positive in first 2 quadrants, negative in the last 2. Cos is positive in first and last, and second and third mein negative. So every ratio you pick up is twice positive and twice negative, and which you'll have to learn, in which first quadrant all are positive, then again I think it's not difficult, second mein sine positive, third mein tan, and last mein cos positive. Only that much you have to memorize. Okay, now domain and range of trigonometric function they are talking about. So domain is, children, all real numbers. We can find trigonometric, these ratios, sine, cos, tan, trigonometric ratios of any huge angle, never ending angles. Okay, or rotation में angles जाते जाते हैं, we can consider as huge as an angle, and we can always define that. All right, so domain is for all these functions, all real numbers. And range का मतलब क्या होता है? Range is images. Image means answers, जो कि मैं अगर रखूं sin x cos x, तो उसकी जो वैल्यू निकल के आती है. So what have we observed? अभी ये ऊपर हमने जो टेबल देखा था, so from this table it is clear that value of sine ranges from -1 to +1. अब माइनस इसलिए बिकॉज अभी हम यहाँ पे देख रहे हैं कि certain quadrants में वैल्यू नेगेटिव हो जाती है, तो न्यूमेरिकली तो वो वैसे ही इंक्रीज एंड डिक्रीज करेंगे एज आई टोल्ड यू, बट उसमें नेगेटिव साइन आ जाता है. ऑलराइट, सो साइन एंड कॉस बोथ फंक्शंस, the value ranges always from -1 to 1. However big the angle, small the angle, minimum value it can take is -1, maximum value it can take is 1. Okay, so this is the range for sine and cos function, right? And for tan function, तो वो तो infinity तक जाता ही है, so that is also all real numbers. All right, that way only sine 90 is not defined, so that we have to keep in mind. All right, now here again this is repetition of what I've all told you. So they have put it in tabular form that in first quadrant sine increases from 0 to 1, then it starts decreasing from 1 to 0, and decreases from 0 to -1, increases from -1. So all this I've already summed up for you. Okay, so इस table को अगर आप ऊपर के 2 tables आपको thoroughly समझ में आ गए हैं, so this one is not a problem. You don't even have to focus too much on that. Okay, so yes, I think Rex, they are showing you graphs out here, so that's an approximate idea, not really very important at this stage. That sine curve goes like this and cos curves goes like this. So if you know how to plot any graph, corresponding x and y के order पे ऐसे graph बनता है, so we know sine 0 is 0, so this is the point. Then maximum value sine 90 is 1. So likewise sine pi again becomes 0, then sine 3 pi by 2 is the minimum value -1, then sine 2 pi is again 0. So इस सबको approximately रखो तो ऐसा curve आता है for sine. For cos it's the other way around. We know cos 0 is maximum value 1, so ये यहाँ पे नहीं होके यहाँ से क्रॉस हो रहा है. Okay, so approximate value रख के you can see these curves, not very important at this stage. For you all now, examples you'll see through, children, which are simple but important. See here, what you have to keep in mind is if cos x is -3 by 5, x lies in third quadrant. तो अभी तक ऐसे questions आपने 10th में भी किए हैं where one of the trigonometric ratio was given to you and they were asking you to find value of the remaining trigonometric ratios. वहाँ पे ratio था, अब यहाँ पे अभी हम function में आ गए because we are going beyond 90 degrees. Okay, so if cos x is now -3 by 5 and x lies in third quadrant, तो अभी वो आपको angle की position भी बता दे रहा है कि where is this angle lying. So in third quadrant we know cos is negative, इसलिए यहाँ पे negative sign आया है. Okay, so now you just have to keep in mind कि कौन कौन सी रेशियो मैं निकाल रही हूँ. Numerically same working होगी. You can either use your identities, okay, this way to find sine from cos and then use sine upon cos for tan that way, or maybe you can, like we used to consider Pythagorean triplet, that cos we know is base upon hypotenuse, so evaluate your perpendicular and then, so either you use your Pythagoras theorem, Pythagorean triplets, or your identities to find remaining ratios. But here only in addition what will happen is you'll have to take care of sine, keeping in mind in which quadrant the angle is lying. Rest of the working is going to be exactly same as what you've done in class 10. पर अब ये थर्ड क्वाड्रेंट में है तो आपका साइन थर्ड में नेगेटिव होता है, तो जैसे ही आपने साइन का आंसर निकाला आप नेगेटिव साइन लगाओगे उसमें. tan इज पॉजिटिव, तो tan का जो आंसर आएगा वो पॉजिटिव होगा. एंड लाइकवाइज देयर रेसिप्रोकल रेशियो. सो दैट इज ऑल यू हैव टू टेक केयर ऑफ कि किस क्वाड्रेंट में एंगल है, एंड अकॉर्डिंगली उस क्वाड्रेंट में विच रेशियो इज पॉजिटिव एंड विच इज नेगेटिव, एंड अकॉर्डिंगली यू विल गिव द signs out there, and rest of the working will be same as what we've done in earlier classes. Okay, so go through these examples that will give you an idea how to do it. And now this, children, these are your allied angles out here, huge angles, but we know that every bigger angle can be written as sum or difference of an acute angle. Acute angle means between 0 to 90, जिनकी values हमें already पता है. तो if you are well familiar with that table that you've studied in class 10, you can find these also. But ये आपको बस ये ट्रेस करना पड़ता है कि ये किस क्वाड्रेंट में आ रही है. अभी वो आपको कैसे पता चलता है is the question. So I will just try to explain you that, and then after that you are going to try 3.2, children. Okay, these are very simple questions. You just give them a try, then let me know. Otherwise I'll send the solutions of this as well. Okay, so okay, I was just giving you this chart which maybe in short is going to help you. As I've told you, see here. So abhi jo humne angles padhne hai, so as I told you, we are going to study it in coordinate plane. So we'll talk about the quadrants this way. So as we know here, this is my line, x-axis, positive direction of x-axis. So that is equivalent to the initial line. So ye 0 degree hai hamara. Okay. फिर आप anti-clockwise rotate करोगे, this would become pi by 2, which is equivalent to 90. Then next is your pi, which is equivalent to 180. Then another rotation of 90 degrees. So that gives you 3 pi by 2, which is equivalent to 270. And another pi by 2 completes your round, which is equivalent to 360 degrees or 2 pi in radian. All right. So here I've written, this is my first quadrant, second quadrant, third quadrant, fourth quadrant. Okay. And all this I've mentioned here, that is for sine. Okay. If you prepare this way table, so aapko clear rehta hai. That is for understanding and for memorizing. All means all ratios are positive in first quadrant. In second quadrant, sine is positive. I've written only the ones which are positive. एक पॉजिटिव होता जाएगा बाकी क्वाड्रेंट्स में, बाकी सब नॉट ऑटोमेटिकली नेगेटिव होती हैं. सो सेकंड में साइन पॉजिटिव है, थर्ड में टैन, एंड लास्ट में कॉस. सो दैट्स जस्ट अ स्मॉल diagrammatic representation to memorize that thing, I should say. Okay, and then next I told you this way, that I'm saying when we are coming to bigger angles, we will try to write those big angles in terms of an acute angle from between 0 to 90. Okay, and how is that done is that every angle can be written as sum or difference of maybe pi by 2, pi, and 3 pi by 2. Okay, 3 pi by 2 and 2 pi, right? So वैसे हम 3 pi by 2 avoid करते हैं. We try to use either pi plus minus. Okay, angle can be written as pi minus, like I've written out here. कि first quadrant में हमें कैसे clear होता है कि ये angle first quadrant में, एक तो वो straight away अगर acute angle है तो naturally it is in first quadrant. And if we can possibly write an angle as pi by 2 minus anything. Okay, pi by 2 minus जैसे ही आप करते हो तो pi by 2 से minus हुआ तो आप first quadrant में आ रहे हो. And pi by 2 में plus होगा तो second quadrant में जाओगे. Then pi में minus करोगे तो you'll go back to second quadrant. This is pi, इसमें plus करोगे तो you'll come to third quadrant. Likewise, 3 pi by 2 minus takes you to third quadrant. 3 pi by 2 plus takes you to fourth quadrant. And this is complete rotation के बाद 2 pi. 2 pi से अगर आपने minus किया तो आप fourth quadrant में आओगे. Because आप clockwise चले जाओगे. Okay, and 2 pi में plus करोगे तो you will go back to first quadrant. Okay, so this way if you can allied angles, from examples it will become more clear, right? So when I write pi by 2 minus theta, I would go to first quadrant, or another way to go to first quadrant is 2 pi plus theta. तो one complete rotation के बाद भी आपने कुछ प्लस करा acute angle, तो आप वापस first quadrant में आ गए. And for second quadrant, pi by 2 में प्लस करके आते हो आप, या pi में माइनस करके. थर्ड क्वाड्रेंट के लिए pi में प्लस करके, या 3 pi by 2 में से माइनस होके. And for the last quadrant, 2 pi minus or 3 pi by 2 plus theta. Okay, so if you see this with respect to this diagram here, you will understand and get it clear. Okay, so abhi ye sab jab ye angles hote hain children, then if you all remember, see pi by 2 ka jab difference hota tha in class 10, you've studied those complementary angles. Okay, sin pi by 2 minus theta used to become cos theta and likewise cos pi by 2 minus theta used to become sin theta. तो वो चीज यहाँ भी होगी. Whenever you'll have a difference of pi by 2, be it plus theta or minus theta, the ratio will flip. Sine will become cos, cos will become sine, right? Tan will become cot, cot will become tan. So whenever there is a difference of pi by 2 plus minus theta, the ratio is going to be flipped. All right, but pi ka and 2 pi ka difference hoga, because pi actually is pi by 2 plus pi by 2. दो पाई बाई 2 मिलके पाई बना रहे हैं. ओके, सो 2 टाइम्स साइन पाई बाई 2 माइनस थीटा कॉस बना, उसमें आपने एक बार और पाई बाई 2 का डिफरेंस कर दिया पाई के लिए, तो वो वापस साइन बन गया, राइट? सो जब पाई का या 2 पाई का डिफरेंस दोगे, उस समय ratios are not changed. Sine remains as sine, cos remains as cos, that way. Okay, so anyways, I think I'll give some examples to you, solved examples, maybe then things will become more clear. So just for understanding today, this much is enough, I think, right? And then next, you try as many questions you can on your own, and I'll send you some solved examples and explain you there as well.